This week on Waterways, American crocodiles and sanctuary no discharge zones. Lurking in the creeks and shallows of Florida Bay and Barnes Sound is an animal that's as old as the dinosaurs. If you spot it moving noiselessly through the water, count yourself lucky. You are one of the few people who have seen the American crocodile. The crocodile lives along the South Florida coast, tucked into creeks and ponds where fresh water from the Everglades meets the sea. This shy animal does its best to stay out of sight, and until the 1960s, not much was known about it.
In the early 70s, a great deal of concern was expressed about crocodiles, largely as a result of the work of John Ogden, who was working with Everglades National Park at the time. Adults larger than 2 meters were regularly being killed, especially by collisions with automobiles, and that remains the major cause of death of crocodiles today. Nests didn't appear to be very successful, and on top of that, those few hatchlings which appeared from the nests rapidly disappeared, and no small crocodiles could be found. So with adults being killed, the reproductive end in doubt, crocodiles were declared endangered in 1975.
People had moved into areas historically occupied by the crocodile. Developments in South Florida not only put crocodiles in the paths of automobiles, they limited the places where crocodiles could live.
The reason why crocodiles have been endangered in South Florida, either through hunting or habitat loss or some combination. In South Florida, it's really clearly been habitat loss. It's loss of habitat in coastal areas by development for the human population, and now between Miami and Palm Beach, it's virtually continually developed. Where the shoreline's not developed is where you find crocodile.
To save the crocodile, scientists and managers needed to find out where it lived, where it nested, and what threatened its survival. For 25 years, Frank Mazzotti and his colleagues have been slogging through mud and piloting boats up narrow mangrove creeks to study the crocodile. Their work starts with finding nests.
Early to mid-April, the female crocodiles will come out to different shorelines, and they'll dig test holes in the sand along beaches or raised ground. They're testing out the substrate for the best conditions for depositing their eggs for incubation. Here she chose a site that was rather elevated. She piled up more sand, raising where the egg cavity will be, and then she deposited the eggs.
Finding a few crocodile nests spread over 30 miles of winding creeks and hidden ponds is hard work. Crocodiles hide during the day and are stealthy at night. Mike Cherkis uses what he knows about crocodiles to solve this problem. A crocodile's eyes shine red at night, making them easier to find. While crocodiles don't return to the same exact spot every year, they do like the same kinds of places. High ground where the nests won't flood.
Back in the early 80s, Dr. Frank Mazzotti had done flying surveys of these areas, aerial surveys, where he picked out the high spots on different islands, actually pretty much everywhere within Florida Bay. So today we still monitor areas of known nesting that have been known since the early 80s, and we walk all beaches and all islands that have high enough ground to have additional nesting. We look for tracks, and that's how we find new nests. Otherwise, we're constantly monitoring old nests and constantly looking for new ones as well.
After making a map of each nest they found, Mazzotti's team of researchers leave the animals alone until nests begin to hatch.
Eggs are laid at the end of April, beginning of May. Their average size clutch is 40 eggs. Most of the eggs in a clutch are fertile. Back when we were examining all of the eggs, about 90% of the eggs would be fertile, which is a very good number. Eggs take about 90 days to incubate, maybe a couple of days less. More than half the nests produce young. And in those nests, maybe half of the eggs will hatch. Causes of nest failure, predation. Raccoons get some of the nests here. That's been on the increase lately. Another cause of nest failure is flooding and desiccation. So like many other critters in South Florida, the reproductive success is linked to hydrological conditions, and if it's too wet or too dry, crocodile nests fail.
Sometime in July, the nests are ready. Responding to chirps from young still half in their eggs, the female will dig up the nest and help them to hatch.
Unlike sea turtles, mom has to come back and open up the crocodile nest to release the young. They can't get out of the nests on their own. And then the moms open up the eggs, open up the nests, sometimes have to open up the eggs if the young haven't gotten out, and they do that by rolling the egg between the tongue and the roof of the mouth.
Oftentimes they'll lay their jaw on top of the nest, and they can call to the babies, and they can feel for vibration of the babies chirping, and she'll know at some point that there's enough chirping, that enough to hatch, that's ready to open the nest up. And she'll take out the babies and carry them to a protected area.
Researchers must find baby crocodiles within 48 hours of hatching. After that, the crocodile will move, taking her babies with her. When they find a newly hatched nest, they quickly move in to capture, measure, weigh, and tag the babies. When the data is collected and the hatchlings are tagged, they are carefully returned to their mother.
When hatchlings come out of the eggs, they're about 10 inches long and weigh about 2 ounces. And as such, they're a great tidbit for a variety of critters, raccoons, wading birds, ospreys are all candidates. Larger fish, tarpon, snook, I'm sure even a sea trout would love to gobble up a little baby crocodile.
Those that survive predators may face another threat, dehydration. Until they reach 6 to 8 ounces in weight, young crocodiles need a steady supply of fresh water if they are to grow quickly and survive. Historically, young crocodiles got it. They hatched in July and August, just as fresh water began to run off the Everglades. By February or March, when the water stopped flowing, they were big enough to go without. Canals and levees built during the last century have cut the flow of fresh water to Everglades and the coast. In dry years, barely a trickle of fresh water is available for crocodiles. Researchers fear that with less fresh water, crocodiles may not be growing as fast. In drought years, only a few hatchlings may survive. Restoring the Everglades will restore fresh water to Florida Bay and Biscayne Bay. Mazzotti and his team are keeping a close watch on crocodiles as restoration begins.
And then the other aspect of our research is growth and survival. We've marked well over 3,000, I think getting close to 4,000 crocodiles in Florida in the last 25 years. Most is hatchlings. And so what we want to know is how many of those have survived and how fast are they growing, and can we relate that growth and survival to these conditions of salinities that we're talking about are so important for restoration. So we go out during those times of the year at night and try to capture as many crocodiles as we can and weigh and measure them. About 40 to 50% of the crocodiles we capture now have been marked previously.
Mazzotti believes what is healthy for crocodiles will be healthy for the estuaries, the places like Florida Bay and Biscayne Bay, where freshwater and saltwater mix.
In South Florida, we really have a unique opportunity to integrate endangered species recovery with ecosystem restoration. Crocodiles, reptiles in general, depend on healthy, natural deliveries of fresh water to the ecosystem. That means not only the amount of fresh water, but also the timing that that water is delivered and the flow rates at which that water is delivered to the system. The same things that crocodiles need for survival. Late wet season, early dry season flow into the estuary for hatchling crocodiles. Those are the same things that characterize the healthy estuary before the human development of South Florida disrupted it.
The results of Mazzotti's work show that crocodiles are doing much better than they were in the 1970s.
There are more crocodiles in more places doing more things now than when they were declared endangered in 1975. There were a maximum number of 20 crocodiles nesting then. Now we estimate over 50 crocodiles to be nesting in Florida, and they are nesting in new places as well.
Frank credits much of the recovery we see today as a result of decisions to protect habitat in the 1980s.
A real key to the recovery of crocodiles in Florida has been the fact that the remaining habitat is protected. Early research that we did in the late 70s indicated two areas, actually three areas that were very important. Northeastern Florida Bay and Everglades National Park, and that was designated as a crocodile sanctuary in 1981 to further protect that habitat and to protect the crocodiles from disturbance by humans. Crocodile Lake National Wildlife Refuge was also established during that same time period, and that encompassed a very important nesting habitat on North Key Largo for crocodiles, as well as juvenile and adult habitat. And then a really third key to this puzzle have been crocodiles nesting at the Turkey Point Power Plant site. And although not protected per se for crocodiles, it is a nuclear power plant, so it is a protected site. And Florida Power and Light has managed the area for crocodiles, so that has become one of the other important components to recovery of crocodiles in Florida.
While the future of the American crocodile looks rosy, it will only stay rosy if we do the right things. We will need to continue to protect the places where it lives. We will need to restore fresh water to the coast of the Everglades. Most importantly, we will need to learn to live with these animals.
One of the things I think is going to be very important for the successful recovery of crocodiles in Florida is that they become tolerated by humans. Best thing that people can do about crocodiles is to educate themselves about crocodiles and that they are not only a natural wonder of nature, but they're an endangered species success story. They are not something to be feared, but they're something to be respected. And so really the key to survival and recovery of crocodiles in Florida is going to be people understanding them enough to appreciate the wonder that they are.
In the Florida Keys, commercial, transient, and liveaboard vessels have always dumped wastewater directly into surrounding water, with little or no treatment, which was actually legal everywhere. Today, it is not. In June of 2002, the state waters within the Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary were designated a no-discharge zone by the United States Environmental Protection Agency at the request of the state of Florida. This designation means that sewage from vessels cannot be discharged overboard.
We want to keep our environment clean. We have such a high concentration of boaters in the Florida Keys that really one boat may not matter. People might think it's not doing a lot of damage, but when you add up all the population of boaters in the Florida Keys, then you put it together, it's quite a lot of sewage.
The new designated no-discharge zone exists in all state waters within the Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary. This area extends from land to 3 miles out on the ocean side and 9 miles from the land into the Gulf of Mexico and Florida Bay. Boundaries extend from the lowest point of land at low tide. Boaters need to consult a nautical chart for the exact boundaries of the no-discharge zone.
The no-discharge zone applies only to state waters, but the intent is to protect water quality, not only within state waters, but also, in any areas which have sensitive resources like coral reefs. The Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary, as we speak, is working on a similar no-discharge zone designation for the sanctuary waters that are located outside of the state boundaries or the state limits.
The problem with marine vessel sewage is that it is more concentrated than land sewage because people on boats have less water available to aid sanitation. In addition, existing marine sanitation devices do not provide adequate treatment to remove nutrients from the wastewater. Local, state, and federal agencies have supported the reduction of land-based sewage released into the environment for years and are now extending this policy onto the water.
Even though discharges from vessels are a small portion of all the discharges that we have in Monroe County, wastewater discharges that we have in Monroe County, they do constitute a significant source of pollution in those areas where boats tend to congregate, such as offshore anchorages and mooring fields, and in confined waters, such as marina basins and canals.
Only sewage discharges are prohibited in the no-discharge zone. Graywater discharges from the galley, shower, and boat wash are not prohibited by the no-discharge zone designation. Seagrass and coral communities in the Florida Keys depend upon clear, low-nutrient waters. The treatment provided by marine sanitation devices disinfects to some extent, but does not remove nutrients and other pollutants. By declaring the state waters of the marine sanctuary a no-discharge zone, the nutrient load caused by boat discharges will be greatly reduced.
Sewage has contaminants and pollutants, including fecal coliform bacteria and pathogens. It also has organic waste, such as nutrients. Nutrients can promote harmful algal blooms and can deplete oxygen in the water. And they can also contribute to a decline of marine resources such as coral reefs.
Nutrients such as nitrogen and phosphorus are essential for the normal healthy functioning of all living cells. However, the increase of nutrients from sewage discharges can upset the delicate balance in the marine ecosystem. Therefore, boats are now required to prevent overboard discharge of treated or untreated wastewater while in state waters of the sanctuary. The best option for boaters to meet the requirements of the no-discharge zone is to use a holding tank while underway and pump out the contents at approved facilities. A pump-out facility is a service that removes wastewater from vessel holding tanks. They are located at marinas or on mobile barges. The wastewater collected from the pump-out stations is treated at a wastewater treatment facility in the local or regional system.
One of the major emphasis of this plan is to increase the number of pump-out facilities in Monroe County. There are a number of assistance programs, such as the Clean Vessel Act grant that DEP administers, that fund pump-out facilities and are being used right now to fund additional pump-out systems in Monroe County.
While part of the effort of getting people to pump out is about changing boater habits, there is also a financial cost associated with pump-out facilities, a cost that the DEP is making every effort to defray.
It's typically, it costs between $5 and $25, to have your holding tank pumped out. As a matter of fact, the Clean Vessel Act grants require that marinas that use the grant to install pump outs provide that service to the public, and that they don't charge for the first several years of the grant more than $5 per pump out.
The Clean Vessel Act grants are making it inexpensive for boaters, but there are also added costs for marinas to provide pump-out services. However, the Clean Vessel Act grants also provide funds for the creation of pump-out facilities. All marinas and municipalities are eligible for up to 75% of the cost of creating a pump-out station.
The county is also taking on the cost of hauling out the holding tanks from the marinas to get the CVA grants so that they don't have to put out a lot of money. Because in addition to having the boaters trying to not burn them financially, we're trying also not to burn the marinas financially too much as well, because it is a big change.
While there are areas in the Keys that lack an adequate number of pump-out facilities, the Florida DEP and local government representatives are working with marina operators in these areas in order to increase the number of pump-out systems available to boaters. The location of pump-out facilities can be found through calling the county's hotline at 1-888-NDKEYSO or by looking online at co.monroe.fl.us/ndz/info.htm. There are also brochures that were created by Reef Relief, the Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary, and the Environmental Protection Agency that can be found at marinas and visitor centers throughout the Keys.
We're interested right now in doing education and trying to get people to want to pump out. Obviously, we really want people to use pump outs, but it's still going to be up to the individual to comply in the end. So that's why the educational campaign, hopefully if we get the word out and let people know why we want them to pump out, then I hope that they will.
But for those boaters who cannot or do not want to be informed or do not care about the health of our marine resources, officials have other ways to ensure compliance.
Well, right now, you can have the Florida Marine Patrol, the Coast Guard, Marine Sanctuary officers, sheriffs on the water. Any enforcing water officer they are allowed to ticket this offense if they see it. The penalty can be up to $500 per ticket if you're caught pumping out.
Marine officers can board a boat at any time. Boaters must be sure that their Y valves are secured to prevent incidental discharge. Boaters with an unsecured Y valve can receive fines. For most boaters, the gin clear Keys water are the reason they are here. Compliance with the no discharge zone regulations should be enforced by every boater on the water who cares about maintaining the marine ecosystem.
The population has just increased so dramatically in the Keys, population of boaters in the past few years, that you can really see, the development the Keys have gone through. And that just puts a lot of pressure on the environment. I think it's important for everybody. I know the boaters love the environment, they love the water. The people that live in the Keys love it. We all live here for a reason. It's probably like just daily life is beautiful down here. And I think that's something that we should all strive to preserve.
The regulations imposed by the no discharge zone are regulations that Keys residents have imposed upon themselves. The scientists, government officials, and environmental advocacy groups that have researched and created the no discharge zones are your neighbors next door. People who live and work in the Keys and have been here for years. People who, although inconvenienced, understand the importance of pumping out.